Hello, Cosmic Soul family. Ella Ivy here with livzenastrology. I was called to pop on here and discuss this new moon, blue moon, double new moon frequency in Virgo. It's coming on August 23rd. I was writing down some dates for when this transmission, for when this potent energy is approaching. So I'm looking at August 23rd, which is the first new moon in Virgo. And then we have a full moon eclipse on September 7th, 2025. And then we have on September 21st another new moon in Virgo at 29 degrees. And the first new moon in Virgo on August 23rd will be at 0 degrees. So we're going to be talking about these energies, about what they could signify in terms of how it's very rare for there to be two new moons. They actually call that a blue moon when there's two new moons within a moon cycle. And the fact that it's going to be in Virgo, we're going to talk a little bit about the archetypical energies of Virgo and what that could signify. And especially if you know where Virgo is in your chart, I would highly recommend looking to see which house Virgo is transiting or natally or even in your progress relocated, because this is where this Virgo energy is really going to be marking new beginnings and signifying all the things that Virgo signifies in terms of health, purification. uh, I think it's interesting in astrology, especially Western astrology, that Virgo is represented by the only female archetype within the zodiacal wheel. So everything else is either an animal or an inanimate object, but Virgo is the only female representation within the astrological wheel, which I find very interesting. It's also the divine feminine, right? So we talk a lot about the divine feminine, this channel being more of a frequency rather than so much of a gender. And the frequency of how we discuss it here on the channel is more of the magnetic qualities of us. If we are electromagnetic beings, then the electric part of us would be considered more the masculine, and the magnetic part of us would be the feminine, right? And so it's interesting in astrology that these archetypes they alternate, kind of like an AC/DC current, ascending and descending, right? So if you're starting with the zodiacal wheel, it starts with Aries, which is masculine, and then it goes to the second house, which is Taurus, which is feminine, right? So it's almost like an alternating current with these electromagnetic frequencies. And if you follow this channel, we come from all as self. So there's nothing that's happening outside of us. It's not happening internally somewhere within us, within our field. And so see, these are some of the sort of the archetypical energies that wanted to be expressed today through this channel, and how you can be navigating these approaching currents of energy with more grace and ease, and just awareness that these energies are working for you, because this life is happening for you, even if sometimes we might have aspects in astrology which are considered hard aspects, which would be like your oppositions or your squares, even sometimes your conjunctions. But again, these hard aspects are also working for you. Sometimes these opposing energies have to pull things apart or have to create change within some place within your system for you to be the highest version of yourself, right? The best, most robust version of you. But you have to let some things fall away. So just like with the cosmic breath, we take the inhale and then we take the exhale, which in some metaphysical realms, that's basically what polarity is, right? It's where we take the inhales and the exhales. And so this, in this polarized perspective, it really is happening for us, because we need the inward breath to sustain us and to bring us life force energy. And then we need that external breath out to push out all the toxins and things that are no longer for us. And so when we're looking and denoting Virgo energy, it is about purification. It's about removing things that no longer make sense for you to have in your system. It's about cleaning up your space. It's about cleaning up your body, cleaning up your thoughts. Some of the ways that this was representing to me too today, as I was navigating these energies, is I just got a new phone during retrograde season because I knew that I had to get new technology, right? So I timed when I was supposed to get my new technology during the retrograde, right, to redo my information, my data assimilation, if you will. And so during this time period, I had to, because I have some Google, I use Google storage, and a lot of my Google storage was filled, right? So I had to spend a good amount of time today getting up a backup zip drive, and downloading a lot of my photos and information and data that I wanted to keep in storage. And then I had to remove the rest of this data that was taking up space in my phone, right, to make room for the new. So as I was doing this process today, I was realizing, well, this is very Virgonian. This is very me in preparation of assimilating and making room for the new, right? So I have to remove the old data information, which I find very interesting because Virgo also is ruled by Mercury, which rules the mind and communications and information, and so I think it's interesting. Really, third house matters. So, and I think that's metaphoric too, right? To make space in our brains and our minds for the new data, the new information that wants to come through, especially with this new moon portal happening on the 23rd. So, we're going to be taking a look at the chart itself to see exactly where this is going to be happening. It's going to be at 0 degrees. And again, I would invite you to look at your own chart to see where this transit's going to be activating this new portal for you, because again, Virgo represents the divine feminine in astrology. It represents, again, purification, the parts of us that are truly innocent, that really just want to be of service. Because I also look at the archetypes, archetypical energies of what not only Virgo represents, but the sixth house, because that's what Virgo in astrology also rules, is the sixth house. So the sixth house, we know, just a couple of terminologies that I'm familiar with when I'm looking at my own chart is, daily routines, work in service to others, how you show up for the other in your everyday life, right? What you do on the daily. These are all Virgonian matters. And so, there was a couple of different energies that wanted to be expressed today in relation to this lunar cycle that's approaching, especially with this blue moon energy. Again, two new moons in Virgo, which is not normally seen. So, why is that significant? And it's in between the eclipse season, which is also, again, beginning in September, right? September 7th. We've also got some retrogrades still happening right now with Saturn and Neptune. And then we've also got Taurus going retrograde, or a Uranus going retrograde into Taurus. So things are still, we're still sort of in this retrograde flow, even though Mercury just came out of retrograde on the 11th and it's moving forward. And we're not really going to get out of the shadow until this new moon energy, which it'll be about the 24th or 25th. So we're still in this, again, retrospective parts of our lives where we're really being focused to see what needs to leave our periphery, what needs to leave our systems, our thought patterns, our homes, our relationships, our jobs. What do we need to make space for, to make room for all this new energy? Because the eclipse season that's approaching in September is going to take it away anyway. And so, how I'm navigating it for myself is to kind of get a periphery, a heads up, if you will, and being very clear on what's leaving my life. And so for me, again, I can just give you a little bit of a story on how you can sort of translate this by knowing where this Virgo energy is going to be aspecting which part of your chart. For me, it's the ninth and 10th house because I have Sagittarius on my ascendant. And where this Virgonian energy is going to be affecting me is ninth house, which is ruled by Jupiter. It's the Sagittarius house, and it has to do with beliefs. And it's also part of my 10th house because I don't use whole sign systems. I look to see, I look more of quadrants, more of the area of the chart where it's going to be aspecting. So again, the quadrant for me is the ninth and 10th house. And so ninth house belief, 10th house is career. And so I'm also looking to see how I've been in work and service up until this now moment and how I want to continue to be of service, but perhaps in a new way, in a new frequency, with a new dialogue, with new ways to communicate, with new technologies. Because I'm also thinking too with Virgo, it's about efficiency, making things simpler, the path of least resistance. So, where perhaps in my thoughts and my beliefs, this is ninth house matters, also has to do with law and religion, right? Again, everything Sagittarius and Jupiter, where I'm expanded, that perhaps I now am choosing or being called to be of service in a new way. And in a whole different periphery, and how I show up in the career house, right? How I show up, again, 10th house matters, which is very Virgonian for me, my own personal chart, is how I want to be the inner authority, right? How I want to show up for the bigger aspect of society, and how what I do on the daily, how people can use these gifts, these ways of me being in service in a whole new way. So what has to leave? What beliefs, ninth house, have to leave my periphery for me to step up into a new octave, the higher octave, uh, the new awareness that I have within how I want to serve, right? And so these are just questions and conversations, and perhaps ways of that you guys can be navigating too. Again, you might want to look to see what house system this is transiting in, because that's where you're going to have these inclinations for beginning new routines, beginning new ways of being of work and service, and how you want to show up in the world, your own inner authority, and again, your own divine feminine, which has to do with the magnetic part of you, what you're attracting into your life. And so, just taking a breath here, realizing that with the eclipse season, historically, eclipses are about removing things. When an eclipse comes and takes something or illuminate which needs to go, it takes it forever and ever. Amen. It means it's never coming back, right? And so, again, how I can connect to this through my own story is I know that for years, my work in service was in hospitality. And it's taken me since 2018 to sort of get out of that persona and identify as just maybe somebody in hospitality, a bartender or server. And that was my identification, right? That's how I was used to showing up in the world, and how I was used to generating income. Well, since 2018, it's been this unfoldment of becoming an entrepreneur and really stepping into my psychic abilities, into my gifts of astrology and metaphysics. And now, because I've been using the tools of meditation so prolifically since 2018, and really learning to master my mind, and understanding the power of meditation and the power of frequency and sound, and how you can really get into these brain entrancement. This is also Virgo. Uh, these brain states, that's where we're programmable, right? That's where our subconscious realm lies, is in these certain frequencies, these sort of data streams, if you will, brain streams of frequencies. And so it's been learning to master, or at least get into these states, so that I can reprogram what I think about, because I am starting to really understand the power of the mind, and what we think about, we bring about, right? So it's been really a lot of process for me of purging the old belief systems, purging the old data points, information that I learned from early childhood, things that I didn't even know were there, that have been permeating in my thought patterns, right? Again, beliefs about, that's my dog, sorry. Tanner, you okay? He's an elderly dog, and sometimes so apologize. You're okay, buddy. But anyway, coming back to why it's important to clear these things out, to understand, first of all, how our energy works and how our brain works, because it is very programmable, right? So, going back to the storyline of work and service, so learning since 2018 to be of service through astrology, but now realizing, wow, I've been working on these patterns of meditation and understanding brainwave states, and getting more into the Silva method, and getting into the alpha and theta through sound and frequency and vibration. And since I've been doing these things for myself, I decided to create a new channel called Alchemy of the Mind Meditations, which helps people get into these states as well, right? So using Chat GBT after a meditation, or after a conversation like this, I'll go in and I'll take my transcript of everything I just transmitted, and I'll help the architect from Chat GBT, which is Robert Edward Grant's, I guess, brainchild, and helping me organize it in a way that can turn it into a meditation, right? So it's about transmitting the energy here and lives in astrology, and then creating a meditation that really anchors in the perspective and the awareness through the meditation channel, Alchemy of the Mind Meditations, right? So And just a little side note too, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and it's, for those of you that do have Virgo on the 10th house, which that's where mine is, I've always had two jobs. I've always um, been in service in two, at least two different mechanisms, right? So when I was bartending, I was either bartending at, Bennigan's at one point, and then I was bartending in Ybor City in Florida because that's where I was at the time. So I always had more than two jobs, right? More than one position. And so that's just a way that I'm recognizing, doing my own deep dive, how Virgo shows up for me because it is mercurial ruled, and Mercury is ruled by Gemini, and Gemini's too. So what stimulates me and what helps me to not get bored, right? Because boredom is a thing. This is something also to Virgos, because we like to learn, right? And constantly assimilate data and make things more efficient. So those of us who are experiencing this new moon Virgo might decide to take on that second job, or has just really had the heart to serve in more than one way, right? So it's not about either or, it's and more. And with Virgo, it really is about being of service, right? And the difference too, I would say, what I've had to learn is it's a difference about being of service and being a servant, right? And so for so many years I was a servant, and it's just a little bit of a different frequency. And as I had to go, and again, the beliefs about servitude and the difference, the energetics of wanting to be of service because your heart is involved and you really want to do good, be good for the collective energy. But then there's also this what I realized, there was this sort of a sneaky subconscious programming that I had inherited somewhere along my lines, was this energy of servitude, because it was tied into self esteem and lack of self worth and lack of self value. So I felt like I always had to be of a, in that servitude energy that was more out of obligation and more out of because I need to make money, right? And I know a lot of us in this realm, we have to generate income to pay bills and whatnot. But how many of us really do what we love and are of service because it's in our heart? Or are we just doing it because we have to make money, and we feel obligated? It's a different frequency there, you see? So, with Virgo, it's about doing what you love and being of service without that servitude energy. To be, again, of service and not a servant. And so this is an invitation to just kind of explore, where have you felt obligated, perhaps within your relationships, within your job, within your work and service to others. And that's no longer satisfying you anymore. It's more of like service to others. You just keep giving to others and not really giving to yourself. Or it could be vice versa, where you've just been giving mostly to yourself and not giving to others. And that heart of cooperation and again, connection. So again, just I would invite you to explore your own frequency of, why do you do what you do? When you show up for work, are you just showing up for the money? Or are you showing up because it's something that you are really impassioned about, and it's something that really is your driver of how you want to make change in the world, how you want to show up in the world? And so, and we may have never thought about these things before in this particular way. And so with this new moon, especially on August 23rd in Virgo, is going to ask you, hey, not only we all have to be of service in some way, right? We all have to show up in the world, and whether you're your own business owner, or you work for an employer, there is again, an agreement to show up in a certain way for the other. This is also very Libra, right? Because Virgo is right before Libra within the zodiacal wheel. So, how you relate to the other. But you have to decide in Virgo, this is how I'm going to show up for the other. And this is how I'm going to give my energy in the shared relationship of Libra, right? And then if you move to Scorpio, it's shared resources and shared sexuality, and it goes even deeper into intimacy, and then it follows the zodiacal wheel. It's really a psycho-spiritual, evolutionary way humans evolve from the periphery of uh, Western astrology. If you follow astrology and you decide to, study a system, because that's all it is, it's a system. It's just a way how we perceive our reality. So, what Virgo is coming in and saying is, look, we all have agreed to be of service to one another, but is it doing what you love? Are you being of service out of obligation, or are you being of service because it's really in your heart to give in this way? So, this is just an invitation again to start questioning and start, when you have better questions, you get better answers, right? And so, Virgo's inviting that in for us, especially since it's at 0 degrees. And 0 degrees is like, I think of zero as like a womb, right? It's a new womb space where we perhaps have, maybe in our periphery, have imagined a certain career choice or a certain way of showing up in the world, and just never thought that we were good enough. Again, where we felt not valued and not respected for who we are, and not respecting ourselves, quite frankly. And so, again, this is all shifting and changing because we're growing, we're evolving, we're healing as a collective. And as we're moving more into a state of empowerment and sovereignty, it really is about getting clear on, our time is limited in this particular dimension. So, how you spend your time, it's also Saturn, is the most valuable resource you have. You can always make money, but you can never get back your time. So this is also what Virgo is representing too, is how you spend your time, how you spend your time being of service. And does that fill you? Does that fill your cup? It probably does help the other, but is it also helping you as well? And vice versa. Are you moving just out of a state of just, service to self, where I'm just going to do for me, myself, or are you really ready to step in to go, you know what? I'm here for the bigger vision for all of humanity. And so, if I can be my authentic self and really share my gifts in an efficient way, Virgo, in a way that includes my heart because it's my passion, then that's how you're really going to not only have more joy and fun, but you're also going to have more abundance because people are going to feel that energy. We're moving into a space of more authenticity in this realm. And so people are going to be able to feel whether or not you like what you do, and whether you're coming from that space of genuine concern and genuine service, or you just showing up for the money. I talked about being a server, and for years, I can always tell, even today, when I go to a restaurant, I can always tell who I'm being waited on, whether or not they really love their job. And it's an energetic thing. It's how you feel, right? So when somebody's just there out of obligation and they're just there for the paycheck, well, you can feel that, you know? And again, we're becoming so deeply psychic, and more of our gifts are coming online. Again, we are the technology. And so as we're starting to get more of our clairs on, if you will, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, it's just our ability to feel and sense and see things and gather more emotional intelligence, right? We're getting to the higher octave of getting more emotionally intelligent. So, again, you can feel when somebody's waiting on you, or you're doing an exchange, whatever the situation may be, whether or not somebody really enjoys doing what they love, or are they just there out of obligation. So, again, these are just sort of retrospects that are coming in, things that I wanted to be shared. So let's go ahead and screen share for this new moon in Virgo. And then further on down the road, I just wanted to kind of touch on the full moon eclipse that's again happening September 7th, and the partial solar eclipse again happening September 21st, which is also the autumnal equinox. And again, we'll be going into that, more of that in a later transmission. But today I really wanted to focus on this upcoming new moon energy. So let's go ahead and screen share and see perhaps where is this going to be shared for you and showing up for you. So here we are. Here is I have this again, this on Aries at the ascendant. So this will be happening on August 23rd, 2:07 a.m. Eastern Standard. And you can see here that the exact new moon frequency, it's always when the sun and the moon are right next to each other. That's what's considered a new moon. And so you can see it's going to be at Virgo at 23 degrees. And I like to look at the numerology because the 2 and the 3, when you add them together, is the 5, which is also very much a mercurial energy. Fives are change. Something has to shift and change. And 5 is ruled by Mercury. It's also ruled by the day of the week, which is Wednesday. So, again, Virgo is all about sixth house matters, our work and service, our routine, our daily habits. And primarily, too, I didn't touch on this earlier, but Virgo also has to do with health. All health matters. So, health routines, we all have awareness on perhaps habits and things that we need to shift, things that really don't make sense to do, even though we do it on the daily. And so we've had this time really since, I would say, January and the beginning of this year. And I'm not going to go into too much of the astrology of what's signifying this, but, there's been a lot of aspects, especially with Saturn conjunct Neptune and Aries, which we've never seen before. And we're going to see that exact happening in February of 2026. But we're starting to get an understanding and an understanding of where we have been out of balance. And especially since Saturn's going to be going retrograde into Pisces here in a few weeks, actually a few days. And then Neptune is going to be going, I think it's in early September, when it's going to be going into, I can look to see here just really quickly. Let's see. Yeah, so it goes, you can see, goes back into Pisces. Here we go on September 2nd. So yeah, and again, we're in this retrograde portion where we have to go and redo Pisces, and then Neptune's going to be shortly following, going back into Pisces. And then, of course, we've also got Uranus going back into Taurus. So, what do we need to clean up in Pisces? What do we need to see again? Again, we look at the archetypes of Pisces. Pisces has to do with our spiritual nature, has to do with 12th house matters, the deep unconscious. It has to do with where we have no boundaries, and in the, I would say, the disagreeable portion of Pisces would be where we have addictions, where we have formed escapist tendencies because things got too hard, too porous. We didn't know our boundaries. So we wanted to escape our bodies because things were uncomfortable. And we didn't know the difference between what was ours and what was the others. So again, there's this form of escapism. So this is what this, I would say, this new moon in Virgo is really activating, is showing us where have we been out of balance and what do we have to go and redo, restructure, reorganize, rethink about, and perhaps again inviting into our routine, our spiritual practice, to really harness in this new work and service to others in a way that's more genuine, in a way that's more authentic, more authentically ourselves, that we're not hiding anymore. We're not having to escape our bodies because we don't feel safe, or we're not using substances in a way that would harm us, right? So there's this new activation where the body really wants to feel good, because in order to be more spiritual and to have these higher concepts and these divine connections, you got to feel good in the body. It starts with the body first, and that's what we're starting to really recognize, is that there is no spirit without the body. It's what houses all these energies. Our body is the vehicle where our spirit drives and moves through these realms, right? It's all connected. And so we're really starting to anchor in these connection points. And now at this point, I'm looking to Mars is still going to be in Libra, which is balancing these energies, because, Mars doesn't necessarily like to be in Libra. It's at its detriment because Mars is ruled by Aries, which is the opposition. But it's also about, because it's about relationships, where we are out of balance within our relationships, and maybe we're out of balance with service to others and service to self, where we have sacrificed within our relationship. That's also very Piscean, right? Pisces is all about sacrifice. And so where have we sacrificed our own authentic selves? Where have we sacrificed our autonomy, our own voice, our ability to show up in the world? Because again, we felt, and I'm thinking too with Chiron here, Chiron is our wounds, where we didn't feel valuable, that the I am presence of Aries, that you were not worthy, right? That you felt like you had to sacrifice who you were to get along in your relationships. So there might be some relationship dynamics that come up for you, especially since you're deciding that you really are stepping into your own sovereignty and stepping into a new routine, a new pattern of thinking of how you want to show up in the world. And so there might be some interesting dynamics at play, because people in your life are used to you showing up and being a certain way. And so when you decide that you're going to imbibe with a whole new I am presence, right? So in other words, I would say, for example, the image is coming in because I'm relating to my work in service in hospitality for so many years. I'm thinking of, when you've been in the trenches with your brothers and sisters, say bartending, right? And then all of a sudden you get promoted and now they made you a manager. And so now all of a sudden, were you were in the trenches with your brothers and sisters behind the bar. Now you're being asked to manage them, right? So now all of a sudden your dynamics within the relationship in the workforce is going to shift, because where you were like more on their level, right? You were all seen as a bartender. Now, because you got promoted or because you're being asked to take on a new um, relationship pattern, a new dynamic within the workforce, and you're, again, that's also too responsibility, which would be also very Saturn. You're being given more responsibilities, therefore you're being seen as more of an authority and leader, which is also very Aries. Then that might shift your relationship with your other fellow bartenders. You're not one of them anymore. Now you are there to manage them, right? So, and again, that's just one example that's coming through from my own life experiences. But I have noticed that when we start stepping up and stepping out into the world and shifting how we behave and what we do in the world, that will shift and then change our dynamics within relationships for better or worse. That's either going to really help you get closer to some people in your lives, and it's going to pull some relationships further away. And this is all part of the dance. This is the necessary part of illusion. Illusion. That's interesting. I said that. Of this evolution, because I think of like the exoskeleton, right? Who you were when you were bartending. Now you have to change roles and shift gears because you're being asked to take on a new persona, to take on more responsibilities. And so you're no longer going to relate in the way that you used to when you were a bartender. Now you have to relate to more of the management staff. So you might see yourself getting more closer to management or to the owners of the company, right? Because you're taking more responsibility. And again, these are just dynamics that are coming in as examples, but I would invite you to see where these dynamic shifts within relationships are going to happen, because this new energy in Virgo is going to ask you to show up in your life differently. And that's on the daily. That's with your routine, your work and service to others. And so, I, what I'm seeing too, not only with the astrology, but what I'm feeling energetically, is the more you stay in your spiritual practice, really, develop these sense of boundaries within your relationships, knowing who you are. And you might be stepping up into a whole new dimension that you're not even recognizing within yourself. This is an invitation to just, again, stay in your practices and really anchor in that unity consciousness that, hey, even though I might be changing my dynamics at work or within this relationship, I'm still part of the collective whole. I'm still part of the system of energy, of consciousness. I'm just operating in a different way, in a different octave, right? So, and again, we can see here that I'm even looking at this particular day, September 2nd. This is also when Saturn goes retrograde back into Pisces. I can see here we're at the anaretic, or the last degree point of Mercury into Leo before it goes into Virgo. And now Mercury, which is ruled by Virgo and by Gemini, likes to be in Virgo. So we can see here in the next day, it's going to be going into the Virgonian energy, and by then the sun will be at 11 degrees, and it's going to be approaching this south node energy. Again, south node is what we've already mastered or what we've already done. So you might be seeing too, with what's coming in too with Mercury, it's like redoing how you shine your light in the world, how you show up. Mercury's going to give you new ideas. I'm even seeing new inventions, new processes, because Virgo's all about processes. Again, going to the path of least resistance. So there might be some dynamics where you learn to live your life more efficiently. And I'm even seeing for some of you, it's not maybe everybody because it's a general reading, but there might be new inventions or new protocols that you take on the daily that really let your light shine and really let you be seen in the workforce and how you show up for the other. And again, this is your own inner authority, and you might even surprise yourself, guys, of what new actions you take or new systems that you start implementing that again are more efficient, because you're remembering, again, this is also South Node. We have these innate qualities within us that we just have to reaccess. But you have to understand and agree that you are worthy and that your voice, that you matter. Again, this is all very Aries, and that your light, your unique light that shines on an individuated level is needed. Because like I'm also saying too, you've got Venus, our love and money planet, it's going to be in Libra or Leo at that time, and it's going to be trining this energy. So you have very unique gifts, creativities, ways of seeing the world. And this also might be for some of you that have always wanted to be a creator or an actor or doing something in the creative field, that you're going to be being supported by Venus there. And I can even see too, because there's a sextile happening during this time, and Jupiter's expanding you here, bringing more security. And again, this I'm seeing Jupiter still expanding in Cancer. This is all the way till June of 2026. So the emphasis also too could be on home matters, right? New creations from the home, ways to build security. For some of you, it's learning new financial means and how to take care of yourself financially, right? So there's just all kinds of different protocols and ways, systems, again, Virgo, that are going to be implemented. And it's going to be tied into how you feel, which is your health, and how you think, which is your mind, which is also very Mercury. So it's about starting those routines that really ground you into your body in a healthy new way. And again, the eclipse energy that's happening on September 7th all the way to the 21st, which is the autumnal equinox, which is going to be balancing out your systems, is going to really illuminate where you have been out of balance in your daily routines and how you've been taking care of yourself, especially in matters of health and, again, work and service to others. So I'm going to quit screen sharing here. I think I can, yeah, I think you guys can see me here. Let me see. Yeah, I think you guys can see me. Were you even saying this? I hope you were. Let's see. Okay. Gosh, I hope you guys were seeing that. Anyway, technology, you gotta love it when you use it efficiently. Anyway, this is the screen I was looking at. I hope you guys can see it now. And again, this is back on September 3rd when I was looking at the retrograde. But again, this new moon energy right here, we're at August 14th, and the new moon is going to be happening again on the 23rd. So here it is right here. And again, it's going to be exact at, let me do this here. Let me go and get it back to 0 degrees. There we go. And 23 minutes. So this is, it's going to be closer to, 2 a.m., 2:07 a.m. is exact when it's going to be happening. So again, inviting in some sort of, I would say, honoring a devotional practice that you can be activating during this time, because Virgo is about the devotion. I think of also like the Vestal Virgins, which is like building in Rome. There was the Vestal Virgins would make sure that the fire of Rome was constantly lit, which is like the spirit of Rome, right? To ensure that the spirit of the city would constantly live on. And so this is a divine remembrance of why we are really here, what our true divine purpose is. And again, in the zodiacal wheel, Virgo is the only sign represented by the female, truly. And so it's the feminine aspect, the parts of us that are receptive, that are receiving these divine energies, these remembrances, these codes of why we are here and how we are here to be of service. And again, not a servant, but of service. And it's just a little bit of a different frequency when you can tap into it. And again, it's a devotional practice to your own inner alchemy, your own inner routines that get you to feel your best state and to drop those habits and those ways of thinking and those behaviors that separate you or make you feel separate from the divine, that you don't feel your best, right? So you know and again, this is an invitation for you to explore that within yourself, and I would even say that what needs to shift and change, but now you're being given the courage and the momentum with this new moon frequency, especially if you do some sort of devotional practice on this day that really anchors it in, right? Maybe lighting a candle or writing it down, because it is mercurial ruled. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so writing things down about what it is you want to create is really a great activation and a great anchoring. It's like It's a way to remember that your mind is altering your reality. And there is something special about writing it down. And for those of you that work with writing magic, I'm even seeing some of you even working with some automatic writing, that you just kind of write, you get in a journal and you just freestyle what it is that's in your thoughts, that you how you want to be of service. And maybe some questions to ask is, what new health practices are going to anchor me into this service to self, balance out the service to self, service to other. How am I really being called to show up in the world? What ignites my heart and what feels good to give, what feels easy to give in a way that fills my heart, and that I know also helps the other. Again, we still have Mercury, how we think is in Leo. So the thoughts are going to be on heart matters and creations, creativity, and having fun with it. Fifth house. It's about like the heart of the child, making sure that what you do feels fun and feels exciting, because you're going to be more inclined to repeat the patterns if it's something that ignites you and it's something that really motivates you, right? The motivation comes from inside out, not outside in. Money is no longer a motivator, right? And maybe for some of us, but for a lot of us, we know that when you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life, and you tend to get more abundance from doing what you love because it's almost effortless. And again, we're becoming more telepathic as a community. Again, I'm looking at Pluto here in Aquarius. And so Pluto is about power, and Aquarius is about groups, organizations, and Pluto is ruled by Scorpio, which is very psychic, right? And so we can feel when somebody really loves what they do, or we can feel when somebody is just there out of obligation or just to make the money. So this is just an invitation to really just come from an authentic space, because authenticity seems to be the name of the game. I'm going to quit screen sharing here. Now I'm not screen sharing. See, here we go. So, yeah, authenticity is the name of the game at this point. So, really coming from that authentic space. And this also, too, because it's a new moon frequency, you might have to learn a new skill. So, say, for example, you've always wanted to be a content creator, but you don't know anything about social media or technology. Well, this would be the invitation for you to go and take that class, right? Join community groups who are also like minded, like hearted folks who are learning these new skills and having fun with it while they're learning. So, this might be an invitation, again, take a class, study up on some stuff, especially if you're looking to expand, because we know that Jupiter is still in Cancer. So, it is about security and matters of home and finance and long term stability. So, you might have to learn about money. Like, for example, I've been called to work with some friends who have elderly parents that they need some help, right? And it's about an hour away from where I'm living here in Kentucky. So I'm choosing on those daily routes to help with this elderly couple instead of just listening to my regular music. Because I love my Spotify, right? And I have my channels that I created and my playlists that I love. But lately, I've been called to, because I really want to expand my financial literacy. I've been called to listen to audiobooks, right? So right now, I'm listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm learning new language to describe finance, and I'm learning the psychology about people who have abundance and who have acquired abundance and what that really looks like and what that means, right? So just for my own I guess life reflection, this is how the energy is showing up for me, is I'm learning a new skill set about money, right? And I'm realizing too, these, again, because it's transiting my ninth house, about my beliefs about money and how literally I was taught by my Virgo dad, right? And dad, he's transitioned now, so he's with me, he knows that he used to believe and would teach us that people with lots of money were evil and they did evil stuff with it, and that the love of money was the root of all evil, right? And so in my own way, I realized the deep psychology is like, oh wow, if you're too rich, you're not a good person. And so subconsciously that's been keeping money away from me, or I've been subconsciously not wanting to be rich because I didn't want to be a bad person, you see. And so now that he's transitioned on the other side, he's telling me, he's like, yo, that's all bullshit, by the way. Just that's what I was taught, and that we don't have to learn that. We don't have to continue that generational pattern of consciousness thinking, of that scarcity thinking, because that was all BS, right? So he's teaching me and showing me now that he's on the other side that we could break these generational curses and patterns of scarcity and abundance by rethinking and realchemizing what we think about money. So now I'm having to learn a whole new language in describing money. So, paying attention to audiobooks that really use very neutral language, but also as an education tool, right? Again, this is just how it's showing up for me. And so I just wanted to invite you to explore, where are these thought patterns and, again, these subconscious programmings about beliefs that just no longer make sense to have. Whether it's about money, whether it's about relationships, whether it's about work and service, how you show up in the world, even ideas about masculine and feminine. I mean, there's so many ideas we have about everything, and just what no longer makes sense to have. So that's what this new moon in Virgo has been, how it's been talking to me and how it's been activating me. And I just wanted to share that with you guys to see if you guys, can relate, that we're all changing, we're all shifting, we're all growing. That's the one constant, is change is always constant. And so you can participate in the change by, again, thinking and visualizing your highest version self, merging with your highest version self, whatever that may be. But do it from a heart space, do it from authenticity, and do it from something you really, really love. Because we all have secret hopes, dreams, and wishes of what we really love, what we really want to do. But again, we had these limiting beliefs, these patterns of thinking and behaving, and perhaps routines and habits that just have been keeping us in this, I would say, stifling frequency. So we're ready to break out of that. It's like the new seed point. It's a new seed offering. New moons are always about new seeds, new planting, new beginnings. And then the culmination will be 2 weeks later when we have this full moon eclipse, which is going to take things anyway. And we'll be talking more about that if you stick with this channel. And again, if you liked any of this content, just please like, subscribe, so you know when we're doing these lives. And yeah, having these cosmic conversations about these upcoming energies. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate your time and energy for just participating in this conversation. And again, I would invite you to do some sort of honoring during this time, writing something down, allowing yourself to really purge and release, because this new frequency is coming. It's here. So you might as well utilize it and play with it, and imagine your highest octave self coming into this field. Maybe do some sort of ritual, whatever that means for you. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. And again, if you liked any of this content, if you found any of your friends or family would find value in any of this, then please, share this. It's great for the channel. It's free for you to like it. And I just so appreciate your time and energy for being here. And I will see you on the next transmission, especially with this upcoming full moon eclipse happening on September 7th. So just pay attention. We've got this big portal window just coming off this Lion's Gate. We're still in it. And there's a momentum happening. So learning to work with the tides, work with the currents, highest and best. That's what we're all here to do, right? Be the highest, best version of ourselves. So this is hopefully helps you get to that space. And thank you so much for being here, guys. I love you. All right. See you in the next transmission. Bye.